Okay, great to be here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bruno Tomas. I work as a CTO for the Wireless Broadband Alliance. And really, I'm lucky enough to work with more than 200 companies that need and want great Wi-Fi. But recently, they have come to me and said, look, there's more we can do in terms of outcome-driven designs. And that's why the community from WLPC, WICO, Wi-Fi Design Day, it's so important on the inputs that you have been giving to us. Having said that, I think what I hear on this event is that, no, it can't be done. We cannot standardize Wi-Fi. Sometimes my feeling is that Wi-Fi design is like an art. And maybe it is, but I will challenge that today, trying to blend in some science and predictable outcomes. And how do we do this? I'm a fan of data. So back in February, we decided to come up with some market research on what the industry feels it's the state of Wi-Fi design. And to do that, the first challenge was there are many stakeholders. How can we get a broad perspective across so many different actors? So based on our membership, we have lots of operators, vendors, system integrators, and then we manage also to poke the community, those of you that have companies, that do professional installations, and then also the enterprises. More and more, they are becoming active, the likes of Home Depot, Walmart, even airline companies, aviation. So they have all contributed to this exercise. So I think we managed to have an equally well-representative market research to present you here today for the first time. So let me start by asking, Wi-Fi Design Day, you are here because you have an interest. What about standards? Who believes we need a Wi-Fi design standard today? Okay, some representation. Let's try and challenge that. So let me share the first question we made, which is, how would you rate the current state of Wi-Fi design and deployment practices in real-world networks? And from a scale of very mature to somewhat mature, fragmented, I think we stand here in the middle, where most people say we have work to do. Around 75% said we need to do something. What this means is not the customers, right? Not the IT managers. It's the persons, the enterprises actually deploying Wi-Fi. They acknowledge that we have some work to do on this front. And then, if we have work to do, what are the biggest pain points that they find in Wi-Fi design and deployment today? I think there are kind of three clusters here, and as in everything, we need to prioritize. And I'm also including some of the comments we received from this audience. There were over 100 individual companies contributing, and then we had around 50 actual written contributions that we want to blend onto this standard. And the first one is really about poor validation and post-deployment verification. So I think we hear a lot about what we do beforehand, how we prepare, how we deliver the project, but then looks like the KPIs, the requirements are not always fitting what the project sponsor is wanting from these teams. Then I think the end-to-end perspective of Wi-Fi design is also very relevant. What matters that is not related with, let's say, the IP and the venue, but the end-to-end perspective, the backhaul, the roaming, even the cabling. So all those considerations are being put forward here on this kind of analysis. So if you can validate, measure, and align, very likely we'll have better outcomes. And when we were discussing this with the team, so it just came to our mind kind of the angry IT manager, the angry CIO, where you do the best design in the world, but then some of those guys that got the project ran away, and these guys here, like all the representative people here, is pure AI imagination. I'm sure you will not find any familiar faces, but these guys then come and they have to help and solve some of the things that were not done right. And for me, that's a lot more troubling than doing it right and going through the end-to-end path. The next question was about, okay, so would the industry benefit from a common guideline? Because it seems that we are still one step back, where if we align on the requirements and KPIs, we can then build a better standard. So I think everyone pretty much said yes, strongly agree that we should do this, and impressive enough, we didn't say, look, if you say no, there will be some path of dawn for you, but no one said, yeah, definitely this is not worth it, and that was quite encouraging on the way we are seeing the evolution. Where we go from here, and going back a bit to the WBA and our vision being delivering seamless and interoperable wireless services. And look, guys, if you are in this room, you should be very happy. I think we never lived such a momentum in the Wi-Fi industry, and everything we are doing not as a silo, but working with other industries. From the seller side, 5G, 6G alignments, IoT, roaming, interoperability, all the services that are coming. I think it's pretty exciting the time we are living. And from all the work we do, around 30 working groups, more than 90% need well-designed baseline Wi-Fi. Otherwise, we have a problem, right? So to deliver Wi-Fi calling, Wi-Fi sensing, enhanced broadcasts, all the new things that are coming here on the charter, they need great Wi-Fi. So that's why I'm very happy to share that starting in February, we approved the new Wi-Fi design working group. We already had a couple calls. There is a leadership team composed of Ookla, Home Depot, and C-Expert, and you can see around 15 companies that are part of the initial promoters. This is an open exercise. We work on a silo basis depending on the vertical, the interest, but it's going to evolve. More leadership team might come forward, but clearly we want this to be the industry-first framework that can help then baselining how design tools work on common profiles. Eventually certification for us is important. If you are a good Wi-Fi deployment, you should be certified. We know Ookla speed test, there is BBF 398. So all those will be part of this unique framework. But as in everything, how do we prioritize? Which areas should such an industry Wi-Fi design guideline focus first? And I think clearly this was a huge, majority of the participants said that, design principles and best practices is the biggest gap. And for me, having attended some of the training sessions like XC Advanced, I think if we are able to come up with these pre-aligned deployment guidelines and come up with a profile, that can go a long way. So then all the validation we talked, RF planning, I would say that's the first cluster. Then we'll go into the end-to-end, the back-end considerations, and this will be kind of a roadmap. And my message to all of you here today is that we cannot do this alone. So all the feedback throughout the day that you can share with me, with, Alan is here, also part of the leadership team, please feel free to share that, and we'll include it on the charter of the working group. But yeah, this is Wi-Fi Design Day. And imagine in 1 year, we deliver the standard, everyone is so happy, it's the magical world of Wi-Fi. Maybe Matt will find a sexy, nice venue here in London to host the event. Even the Wi-Fi 5 nines, we can come up with that concept here to our industry. Everyone is validating, doing the KPIs right. We are still not there, so we need a path for introduction. And that's some of the outcome-driven design I also want to bring here to you today, kind of a fast perspective on what you need to consider as professionals that is coming very soon to the Wi-Fi. So things like quality of experience. Many people say, oh, Wi-Fi is not managed. Look, cellular is the only technology that can fit some of the use cases. Then you have all the interoperability, the roaming, you have new services that are being deployed, and then you also have spectrum, access and consistency. And here in Europe, there have been quite some effort to streamline that. On the other end, you also have a role in terms of trying to engage with these working groups, check if your company is a member of one of these organizations, attending training, and disseminating this information within your company. So just a few examples on this real-time QoE that is coming to Wi-Fi design. So this is one example here, from this hotel. If you go out, I found it really curious. There is like a phone booth around this location. There is a phone booth that says Wi-Fi available. And this is the perfect use case. So very likely, here in London, we are working with the community, and there is connected London Wi-Fi. So very soon you will be walking around and you just connect on the street, but then if you come inside this venue, the device will likely need to steer or even find cellular in between. So we are announcing this new capability where you can predict the quality of the Wi-Fi, and the identity provider, the owner of the user, helps making that decision. So this is based on Connect Info. You can use, for instance, RSSI like it's here on the screen, but it's before the user connects. So this is already being standardized on ITF. So by June, the spec will be ready, and you can blend this into your design. You can present this to IT managers. Going back to the post-validation, what are the KPIs you want to blend with your Wi-Fi design? Then, if you talk with your vendors, most of them already have prototypes. So ask them how the roadmap is looking, but I know that most of the top tier vendors already have some solutions, and in our membership, more are looking for pilots and partners. The other trend, and being in London, is about OpenRoaming. I had to provide you an update on this technology. If you go to Google and just search OpenRoaming maps, you will see that here in London there is quite some representation. I was lucky yesterday to manage to go to here close to Madame Tussauds Museum, and there are some OpenRoaming spots. So this means that you just walk and you connect seamlessly with a connected London profile. Then other examples in Brazil, in Japan. But for this audience, again, for the outcome-driven design, I would like to focus on two things. One is the ROI. You know, when you go talk to an IT manager, and Matt was telling us about the number of APs you need to deploy, if you should upgrade, and they will ask, what's the ROI, or will I reduce some churn? And in fact, good deployed Wi-Fi means that this company, Delhaize, the biggest company you never heard of, supermarkets in Belgium, in the Netherlands, once they deployed OpenRoaming with Wi-Fi 7, their revenues went up by around 20%. So the user is going inside the supermarket, connects automatically, and you can interact with the user to push a coupon. So very interesting use case. The other one is, you know, like Tokyo, public Wi-Fi. So once they enabled this OpenRoaming, they went from 200K authentications to 20 million. So they had to prepare, you know, for this surge. The other perspective is all the verticals are really embracing it. So if you are working with customers across any of these healthcare, retail, municipalities, education, please feel free to reach out to some of them, and there will be a vendor or a solution to get you through. The other consideration is spectrum. And again, being in the UK and the Ofcom, the recent consultation from Ofcom mentioned that the way to solve indoor connectivity is by using mechanisms that work over the top. They mentioned OpenRoaming and Passpoint as a way to steer between macro cellular and deploying indoor mobile small cells that include Wi-Fi. So the regulators are saying that if you can deliver policy, real-time QoS, and seamless transitions, definitely there is an even greater role for Wi-Fi to play. The other angle is emergency services and mission critical. There is one feature on Wi-Fi 7 that helps you prioritizing first responders. I think this will be really a topic for this year, where you will see more and more this coming on RFPs, where venues will want to make sure your designs can prioritize these first responder type emergency service calls so that you can comply with some regulation that is being put forward. Emergency calling, also very important. We should be able to do Wi-Fi calling emergency without being associated to the Wi-Fi. So meaning I'm here on this venue, cellular is very poor, as you might have noticed. Even if I'm not connected to the Wi-Fi, there is a way for you to use a profile and let the user through. Last but not least, emergency warning systems. We need a way to push these over-the-top messages on Wi-Fi. I know sometimes can be intrusive or privacy, concerns, but the full package is what will make this technology even more relevant within the global context. Last one on this trend is about end-to-end QoE, and how Wi-Fi 8 is embracing some of these features, and this will be coming very soon. What I mean is, by having this spectrum, availability and standard power available, suddenly you augment the use cases that you can deliver with the Wi-Fi. And here in the UK, you know that last month Ofcom just put out a consultation where they want to enable standard power on the lower band, and also the upper band might have some AFC mechanism controlling it. So spectrum considerations is something that we want to blend into the design aspects of our work, and we'll be driving that. I mentioned the end-to-end QoE, so the only note here is that Wi-Fi 8 Draft 1.0 that is now available includes a more end-to-end perspective. So when you are doing the KPI validation with the IT managers, with the CIO, you will have to blend some of the considerations on the use cases they want to see enabled on their networks. So with end-to-end QoE and L4S, you can tag the packets at the cloud level. If you are streaming video, the likes of Netflix or cloud gaming with NVIDIA, there is now a way for you to match your design with what these providers can deliver. And finally, I would also like to mention this concept of Wi-Fi and cellular, friends or foes, competition. And basically, 3GPP, the partner organization working on mobile standards, tried for 20 years to come up with an architecture. Can we integrate Wi-Fi with cellular? And there was one successful endeavor, which was the PDG that today enables Wi-Fi calling. More than 140 countries have Wi-Fi calling enabled. That's the most successful integration we ever seen on these both worlds coming together. And what we are doing with the help of some of the companies you saw is to come up with the clear requirements on what mobile operators need from Wi-Fi to integrate it with 6G. Still managing it, and once we have here the Venn diagram, you can see that Wi-Fi was never meant maybe for mobility, even though it's improving, but other areas, definitely capacity, indoor coverage is where it's making the most difference. So with this in mind, with the path to the Wi-Fi design standard, with some of these novelties coming to our industry, my message to all of you here today is that I would really like to put forward this open innovation context to make it work for us and come up with the, can't be done to some baseline that everyone can use. So our working groups will be working with our partner organizations, but then the feedback here from this community, even the concepts that we get from WLPC checklists and everything that was put forward, we want to embrace it and make it part of this iterative process. So please, make sure to engage and be prepared. I mentioned the working groups. Check if your companies are part of it. We are very happy to help you with the onboarding. Attend some training. I think examples like the AXI Advanced is a very good way on catching up with this innovation and trends. We want then these to blend onto those training sessions. Boot camps. This is becoming complex. I must acknowledge that there's lots of technology theory that we need to decode. So like boot camp, I attended about location on WLPC, was very insightful. Or now you bring standards to real, AP deployments. You have the clients, you can experience with it, and then you come back to your company. That's a step forward to talk with your vendor and maybe push for those services to actually get deployed. But with this in mind, once again, really happy to be here. I hope I get some of your feedback on this Wi-Fi design standard perspective and other things we should explore as an industry. So make sure to get in touch and hope you have a great event. Thank you so much.